This is the Whirly Bear Productions podcast, where I discuss film finance and distribution with filmmakers and entertainment lawyers. Rich Felgate is the award-winning documentary filmmaker behind Finite, The Climate of Change. In this episode, we discuss sourcing funding as a first-time filmmaker through private investment and the Patagonia Fund, as well as navigating sales and distribution deals with Espresso Media.
Rich Felgate, welcome to the show. So, I loved your film. It was brilliant, Finite, it's fantastic. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about the film and where you went to shoot it?
So the film follows two communities fighting against coal mining companies. They're kind of joined together in a fight where all they've got left to use is direct action to save habitats and their homes from the destruction of open cast coal mining. And it's kind of an inside look into the climate movement, as that's where I kind of started my filmmaking journey from, as an activist wanting to kind of shine a light on these issues and use film in order to speak truth to power and engage people with the climate emergency.
It's a very powerful film.
Our landscape is being devastated, and if we are not acting now, everything is going to be lost.
A new coal mine in the 21st century is absolutely insane. We're talking about stopping climate change, and at the same time we're giving in to corporate greed.
People are dying already because of global warming, and I don't want to live knowing that I didn't try fighting.
And in terms of the filming locations, it all takes place inside two protest camps. And I spent about a year and a half living with the communities inside the protest camps. So like living in tree houses, living in tents and self-made structures that are blockading access for these mining companies to work, to kind of destroy habitats, where these blockades are basically people just living in the way, putting their bodies on the line and forming a community on that front line to stop the coal diggers coming in.
So you were an activist before you were a filmmaker. I'm wondering, for the funding of the film, did you apply for the funding first, or were you out there in the trenches first and then you got the funding? Which way around did it happen, and where did you get the funding from? I know you're awarded the Patagonia Media grant. Where else did you get the funding from, and what was the process like?
So we did a crowdfunding campaign to fund post-production, and then kind of approached some kind of investors, like environmental philanthropists, to kind of put in chunks of money. We didn't have any kind of major investors into the project. It was all on a shoestring budget, really. And the filming process was kind of completely self-funded. So when I mentioned about living in the protest camps whilst filming, that was the essence of the story, but it was also kind of a financial necessity. So it was only possible to spend a year and a half filming because you don't have to pay rent in a protest camp. So I just basically got the cheapest 4K camera I could get, got some basic equipment, and then lived this lifestyle where I didn't need to pay rent, didn't need much money to get by, and that was the only way it was really possible to spend so much time, really just dedicate my life to filming the project.
And the environmental philanthropists you talk about, how did you get in contact with them? Were they people that you knew already, or were they friends of friends, or how did you find them? And Did you pitch them the film? Was it difficult to get them on board?
Yeah, so we got in touch via Network for Social Change, and kind of initially had a funder. My understanding is activists campaigning kind of funding rather than the film industry. But yeah, we made contact with an investor that kind of initially put just a small amount of money into the project just to help kind of tie things over, be able to like pay for some transcriptions to be done when we started the edit, and then after we did the crowdfunding campaign, then we were able to kind of go back with some footage to kind of show where the project was going, and negotiate kind of a larger amount to be put in return for kind of a stake in profits of the project. But it was very much on the basis of just kind of honest communication about just believing in the story, that this is something that needs to be told, and it can make some change in the world rather than a business opportunity, let's say. And we had a similar kind of dynamic with one of our exec producers who put in some money as we started the editing process, just to kind of be able to help cover some of my costs whilst I was also working part-time in the evenings, and then being able to just get started with the editing process during the daytime. And it was similar kind of in return for a stake in the project, but I guess this belief that it's just supporting in a good idea and an important story, rather than kind of an investment where money is likely to, where like profitability is likely to come out of it. I mean, to make filmmaking sustainable, we still want to be able to generate revenue from the project, but that wasn't the baseline of this investment, really.
What's the Patagonia Media grant?
That was the first decent sized chunk of money that we had put into the project, which then enabled us to bring on an editor, and that was really a game changer.
She's a fantastic editor, isn't she?
Yeah, really great. And working with someone who's really experienced, really recognised and established in their field, there was just so much to learn from. And then being able to take the project from a first-time filmmaker figuring out how to do everything as I go along to actually someone that's been through the process, has got years of honing the craft. That really was a turning point for the project, and wouldn't have been possible without someone with money believing in it, like Patagonia did.
How did you get in contact with her?
Just through someone I met at a film festival, another filmmaker. I just asked them, do you know any editors? Anyone you recommend? So I just completely cold emailed, said just to describe the project, and often it's the case that you email people and you never get a response, but I guess this is one of those times where it actually worked. So Ariadna and I just had a chat about the project, and she was just engaged with the story, thought it was something important, and it went from there.
Do you still own the rights to the film?
So we're working with a distributor called Espresso Media, and they have the kind of TV streaming on demand rights exclusively, and then theatrical and educational is non-exclusive. So whilst they're kind of working on the TV distribution side of things, we're running an impact campaign with with screenings where it's the rights are kind of held by me essentially.
Right, so you're marketing it yourself for the theatrical side of it?
A mixture of screenings really, so some in some cinemas, some in more kind of grassroots community screenings. So we're working with different activist groups to screen the film in order to support campaigns that they're working on. So some of those have been kind of quite DIY. It's been screened in protest camps, in universities, in social centres, community centres, that kind of thing. We've got some cinema screenings coming up. I guess it's always felt like a big theatrical release would be great, but it didn't feel like the most realistic thing for this film, or necessarily one of the central things we'd be aiming for. Is to get as many people to watch the film as possible by getting it on TV and streaming, and then to make an impact with the film by getting people together in a room and watching it and discussing, we've seen this film about the climate emergency, what are we going to do about the climate emergency now? And that's what we're doing with activist groups. It's kind of I think that's one of the ways to do it, rather than depending on a theatrical release. It's kind of always felt like we can be sure that we can collaborate with activist groups to screen the film, but it's always felt like a bit of an unknown, bit of a really tall order to get it into cinemas across the country. So we weren't kind of pinning all our hopes on that.
What platforms is it going to be on?
And
where is it going to be broadcast in terms of television?
So it's going to be broadcast on NHK in Japan, and that's a shorter, like 52-minute TV format of the film, which we cut with as part of the deal with Espresso, was to make this alternate version, which kind of opens options for TV slots that are just an hour rather than for a whole feature film. So yeah, that's going to be the first TV broadcast coming up in, I'm not exactly sure, it hasn't been announced exactly when it's going to be, but I think it's around the beginning of this year, in the near future. And then we've got a couple of other deals which I don't think have been publicly announced, so I'm not sure exactly what I should say, but yeah, kind of public broadcasters in Europe. I guess it's been taken up by a few smaller territories first, and then we're hoping we can get something get something in the UK and in Germany as well, where that's the main focus of the film.
So the contract that you've signed with Espresso Media, is there an end date on that contract?
So it's 7 years, and then we have a 3.5 year break clause. So after 3.5 years, we can part ways if we want.
Is that international?
Yeah.
And you're doing very well on the festival circuit now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's gone really well. It's kind of
it's exciting.
Took a while to get going, I guess, getting the premiere. There's for all the festivals you get into, there's many more rejections. So but once you get off the mark with the premiere and I guess generate a little bit of buzz around the film. It gets seen around places, and it's kind of snowballed a bit. And it's been about 20 festivals now.
How have you found it networking at film festivals?
With this project, I feel like I've made it as a bit of an outsider in the film industry. I've kind of popped up with this film, and it hasn't really been on the radar of anything. I haven't known many people in the industry or made it through the kind of more conventional means of funding. So yeah, festivals have been a really good way to actually get to know more of the ins and outs of the festivals, how it works for more kind of established filmmakers in terms of pitching for funding for future projects, and just, yeah, getting to know the circuit really. There's all these forums and festivals that are major kind of landmarks on the film circuit, but you know, if you're coming in as a newbie, you can just be totally oblivious to some of the really significant ones. So yeah, I've kind of just, it's been a great opportunity to just massively expand my network and just the lay of the land for film funding, distribution and whatnot.
With the contracts that you signed, I know it's early days, but do you have an agent yet, or did you get a lawyer to look over them?
Didn't get a lawyer to look over, but yeah, we showed one of our exec producers, and who's got lots of experience and has been through this process many times, kind of the whole way through distribution. It was key to just ask people who've done it before, and get really useful advice and kind of reassurance, and just not really rush into anything. And also just talking with other filmmakers who've worked with various distributors, just ask, like, what's the experience been like, and just having honest conversations about how their experience has been, in order to know what's best for the film, basically.
Was there a lot of negotiation when you were talking about the contract?
I'd say a lot of discussion, but it wasn't so much kind of negotiation about trying to get something different to what was being offered, but just we were learning about the process. So it was lots of kind of just figuring out how it works. It's great to see the distributor was able to just kind of talk us through the process about how the release would look, how things work with the rights or different territories. So it was more, we dedicated some time to just figuring out the process before making a decision and kind of going into the contract.
Have you met some other wildlife and documentary filmmakers that you want to work with in the future? And what other plans do you have?
Yeah, so I'm working on a new film also about climate activism, following the group Just Stop Oil. They've been in the news quite a lot over the last few months. So it's kind of so I've been filming a bit of an inside look since they started, and it's kind of gradually building up into a new project. And I guess with meeting other filmmakers, you never know someone you meet at a film festival or something. You might collaborate in years down the line. So one of the exec producers that helped out with Finite, we're working on this project kind of a bit more closely. So yeah, it's making those initial collaborations that I guess, grow further down the line.
What advice would you have given yourself before you started this project?
Don't jump in at the deep end like I did. Making a feature.
That's the fun part.
Making a feature as my first film without really much experience was definitely made it, I think, a much more grueling process. But I guess it kind of, it's paid off in the end. But I think there's a lot to be said for building up, starting with shorts, honing your craft, building up your kind of reputation a bit more than going in as a nobody and having this really steep mountain to climb in order just to complete the film. But then I guess the other main bit of advice would be to learn from more experienced people in the industry, and I guess be aware of your kind of limitations by seeking to work with more experienced people, because ultimately it's going in as a first-time filmmaker. I think a crew, something that would have perhaps made Finite a bit of an easier process would be to have got in with a more experienced producer. So in terms of applying for funding and just navigating the process, you've got someone there with you who A, knows how to do it, and then B, is a safe pair of hands, isn't a very high risk for funders. So that was always an issue with Finite. Working with myself and a co-producer is also first-time feature doc maker. You look at us on paper and it's just like massive risk. We hadn't proven that we could make a feature documentary, let alone a good one. So yeah, I think collaborating and learning from people that are more experienced, it might be fully getting a producer on board or just getting advice. Never be afraid to reach out to people just for advice. I mean, but I think a lot of the time you won't get an email back, but then sometimes you will, and then that can be the start of a collaboration, or just being able to learn from someone that's done it all before and can just kind of hop on a Zoom call for half an hour or an hour, and you just kind of, you get loads of advice, loads of feedback on what you're doing, and it just kind of, might save you loads of time being able to just pinpoint something where you're going wrong and changing direction, and just having a sounding board that's can just offer advice.
Well, I think you absolutely pulled it off. From watching the film, you would never guess that you'd never made a short before. The film's fantastic, so you did extremely well. That must have been very daunting. How much footage did you come back with? How many hours of footage?
A lot. I think about 300 hours. I mean, I've never tallied it up completely, but it's something in that region.
So how long did you spend in post then?
So I mean, the editing process was even longer than filming. That was a good 2-3 years. I guess there was a part where post-production was kind of in two separate halves. There was a time where we were just starting out. It was kind of just me going through the footage with really no clue what I was doing, and then when we could bring bring Ariadne on board as editor, then we almost started again in lots of ways. Just kind of on a bit of a actually putting it together in a completely different process.
And you definitely got the message across.
It's another bit of advice is, I guess, to be able to, just reflect on, and enjoy what you have done, because it's often be it a festival and you kind of, on the one hand, enjoying the film, but then also thinking about the next thing and kind of it's easy to put on a bit of pressure about, not just enjoying the completion of the film and the impact that it has, but, pushing to try and get it onto TV and, setting up an expectation and a bit of pressure to achieve that.
Do you want to share some links for the film?
So check out our website. It's finite-film.com, and that's the place to see all the screenings we've got coming up. At the moment, it's playing in some cities across Germany, and we're going to have a screening tour across the UK from mid-February onwards. And that will be in some select cinemas, and then also we're working with activist groups to make an impact and share the film. And then hopefully we'll have a wider release to watch at home sometime after that. We're on social media at finite.doc, and I guess we post quite a lot of stuff about campaigns that people can get involved with. Like right now, in the same region of Germany as where we shot the film, many of the same activists are defending a village called Lützerath that's being destroyed to expand a coal mine. And basically right now police are moving in to evict hundreds of protesters that are basically putting their bodies in between the coal diggers and this village. So there's a big protest camp there, and it's going to be quite something. So we're supporting that campaign, that front line, and trying to get people to join and to support.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. You've been excellent. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think it's really important to, share some experience I've had as quite a new filmmaker, kind of learning lots of ways how not to do things. And being able to share some experience so perhaps people don't make the same mistakes, and we can all learn from each other. That's really valuable.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.